Hi and welcome to this session. So we're going to look at today a little bit mobility to really target if you're having any particular trouble around your back, okay? Back pain is a massive thing, okay? A lot of us are very much debilitated by it, and because of lockdown, for instance, we all may have been sat down a little bit longer, not moving quite as much, or exercising in a slightly different way that may have put stress through our back muscles, okay? Now, generally if you're getting lower back pain, it's not going to be probably something that's deep rooted in your lower back, okay? That's kind of going to be where the symptom is materializing, but the actual cause of it may be some mobility issues somewhere else, okay? And that could be either above it, so either up at the upper spine, so our thoracic spine, and also in and around our hips, okay? So if our hips are nice and tight and we don't have the mobility and the range of motion we need to have around both them and our thoracic spine, it may mean that we put undue pressure through our lumbar muscles and our lower back, okay? Or for instance, we may just get a little bit of asymmetry around our pelvis, which again can lead to a bit of back pain. All right, so we're going to look today to try and target our thoracic spine and a little bit of hip mobility, especially concentrate on allowing our hips to be able to extend, because if our hips can extend, then our glutes can potentially function out a little bit better and they can take some of the load that they're meant to take instead of our back muscles taking that load. Okay, so if you can practice this, 2-3 times a week if you are getting particular bad back pain, okay, see if it helps at all. If any of the movements do cause extra pain, then I'd say just move away from that exercise, okay? I'm not, diagnosing anything here. I'm just trying to help with some gentle mobility work that may help you, okay? If you persist in getting pain through your lumbar or through your lower back, you might want to go and see an osteopath, a chiropractor, or your GP, okay? So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to work on a little bit of thoracic rotation, okay? So like I say, if you get into positions where it's uncomfortable, then potentially you may just want to try and shift around to a position which is slightly less uncomfortable for you. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hinge over, okay? So I'm going to show you from the side. I'm going to hinge over, okay? Push my bum back behind me, and I'm just going to put one elbow on my right elbow on my right knee and my right hand on my left knee, okay? And I'm going to point my hand down at the floor. My palm is pointing out to the right, okay? I'm then going to lift up, rotate the palm so that it's facing forward as far as I can go, and then I'm going to come back down again to just outside my right foot. I'm going to come up, I'm going to rotate, so I'm not jamming up that shoulder too much, okay? I'm not rotating forward here and hunching through the shoulder, because that means I'm just going to jack up the shoulder. I'm not actually going to try and move a great deal. So if you get to a point where you can no longer move without that shoulder moving, that's your range of motion, okay? And that's what we look to try and develop, okay? So we're going to go through and we're going to do 10 more. So we're going to breathe in and we're going to breathe out as we rotate. Turn and look up at that hand. Good. And back down. So wherever your spine goes, your upper spine goes, we're going to follow it with our head. 2. 3. Should be able to get that a little bit further each time. Just make sure the elbow and the hand stays in contact with the knees. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. And 10. Okay, we're going to switch it around to the other side. Okay, I'm going to do it from a front on perspective now so you get a better view. So elbow on, elbow on. Okay, keep that nice and level. We come up, we come over, we turn, we look up. 1. You may find yourself be able to get round a little bit further on one side compared to the other side. It's not normal for someone's thoracic rotation to be that little bit better on one side. Makes sense that if that's the case, then you need to work that tighter side more. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. and 10. Okay, good, well done. So now we're going to go down onto all fours, right? And we're going to work at really trying to get that spine working slowly, bit by bit, okay? So a bit of spinal segmentation, okay? So what we're going to do is going to dip our head nice and low down, and then we're going to lift our head slowly, okay? And then what's going to happen from here? I'm going to dip my head, and then I'm going to roll all the way down my body, tuck the tailbone underneath, okay? And then I'm going to roll all the way back from the pelvis. So the pelvis tips, start to move from the lumbar, look up, and back down. So chin down, shoulders down the spine, good. And then we're going to go the other way from that pelvis all the way up. I'm going to look up, flexing through that top of the spine, cervical spine, T-spine, down into our lumbar spine, and then we're going to go from our pelvis so our lumbar spine is moving, T-spine is moving, head is up. One more time. And tuck, and up, and hold. Okay, so that's fantastic because it makes you actually think about what's happening through all parts of your spine. Okay, so we want to really make sure that we're able to access the ability to flex and extend through our thoracic spine, because if we can't and we try and do it, what's going to happen is we're just going to move from our lumbar spine, and that's sometimes what helps or causes those back muscles to really fire up a bit too much, okay? So the real external muscles around the side of the spine and the deep rooted muscles down a bit further underneath, called the QLs, which can really lock up and they can cause lots of issues, okay? So really being able to move your spine segments at a time is really, really key, all right? So we're then going to go into another rotation exercise for that T-spine, okay? But this time we're going to be really focusing on going through flexion and extension through the T-spine at the same time as trying to rotate, okay? So the T-spine is designed to flex and extend, but is also designed to rotate as well. So we're going to include both of those in here, okay? So we're going to go onto all fours, and what's going to happen is I'm going to put my hand on my temple, and I'm going to reach down towards my opposite hand. As I do that, I'm going to flex my T-spine. So I'm going to really try and flex over and rotate underneath. And then I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to extend and rotate as I turn. Then I'm going to go back into flexion and rotation and up and through. That's 2. Breathe in as we're down here. Breathe out as we come up. 2 more. One more, flex, flex, flex. Good, okay, let's change sides now. Okay, so same again, hand on temple, we flex and we rotate, and we extend and we rotate. 1. 2. 3. 4. And 5. Good, okay? So working that real process of being able to extend and rotate through that upper spine, okay? 2 real functions of that upper spine. And if we get too locked up and we can't rotate and we can't extend, then unfortunately those forces and the ability to move is going to move further down the chain, so it's going to hit us from these muscles down here as we really try and lift, but we haven't got the mobility, so therefore we just jam up these muscles too much. Okay, so that's our T-spine that we looked at, and now we're going to focus on our hips a little bit. Okay, now one of the major causes of back pain is lower leg discrepancies. Okay, strength discrepancies, imbalances, etc. Okay, so what we want to make sure is that our pelvis is nice and symmetrical in relation to our spine. Okay, so if it's asymmetrical, so our pelvis drifts away or tilts or hikes or tilts too far under or too far back, then it's no longer symmetrical to where the spine sits. So we need to make sure that's as good as it can be. Now, a posture that a lot of us adopt is this posture, okay? A real heavily anteriorly rotated spine, pelvis, okay? And what this does, as soon as you've done that, like a Donald Duck bum I like to call it with clients, is that it tends to really then fire up those back muscles too much, okay? So with this heavily anteriorly rotated spine at the moment, I can feel all those back muscles just fire up too much, okay? In reality, we should be able to tip and tuck, find the midline, and that should be a nice neutral pelvis, okay? So you should have core engagement to hold that pelvis in position and some glute engagement as well, all right? Now, where we're not able to do that sometimes, i.e. bring our hips under and extend, which leaves us in this position, is that the muscles at the front of our hips become very tight, okay? And they stop us being able to extend our hips, okay? So long periods of sitting down, driving at a desk, and so forth. If we then try and get up and extend our hips, we don't have the flexibility and the range, the tightness is there so that it doesn't allow us to be able to extend, okay? Which in turn can have the ability to shut off our glutes too much and not allow them to fully function because they can't fully extend, which is the function of the glutes, okay? So what we're gonna look at is trying to just release through the front of the hip. So the anterior muscles of the hip, that's called the psoas, the hip flexors, commonly known as, okay, as part of the function of the front of the hip. And what we're going to do is we're just going to come into this position. Now, too many people think they want to jump into a jammed position straight away. I don't want you to do that. I just want you to try and feel where it is you're trying to stretch. And the way we can do that is we can get our pelvis, and imagine I'm just going to turn a dial to try and tuck the pelvis underneath and squeeze the glutes. I'm trying to open up that hip, okay? That's basically what this is doing. Here I'm in a flexed hip position, here I'm in extended. I've opened up that hip as much as I can, okay? And I'm squeezing my glute because that is a function in the hip extension, all right? If I can squeeze that glute, and it generally means that the muscles down the front can release off that a little bit more, okay? And allow them to stretch that a little bit more. So in this position here, I can feel a pulling in the anterior part of my hip, the front of my hip, and it's stretching nicely, okay? So I'm gonna hold this as a stretch, all right? Continue to tuck under, continue to squeeze, okay? Doesn't matter what you're doing up top, you don't have to excessively lean back or anything like that. You could even just rest on your thigh if you're able to tuck under and squeeze, okay? And that's the next part really. I want you to lean forward and I want you to push your hip forward that little bit more. Now that we know what it feels like to stretch, I want us to just rock forward into it that little bit more and just hold that stretch. Still continuing to try and engage the glute as you push the hip down towards the floor. I can get this all the way. It might kick down the thigh a little bit, okay? But generally, if you're really tucking under through that pelvis, you should get quite a pull through the top, the front of the hip. And we're just gonna hold again. And now we're just gonna focus on our breathing a little bit. So we're gonna breathe in for 3, out for 3. As we breathe out for 3, we're just gonna try and get a little bit more deeper down into it. Eventually, if you have the ability to be able to put your hands down on the floor and push your hips down even further, then please do so. And we're going to spend another 30 seconds just in this stretch, a key stretch for us. That's it, keep it held. Okay, and just rock it back slowly. All right, now we're going to go into the other side. So exactly the same thing. We're just going to find the stretch and the tissues that we want to access first of all, okay? So we're just going to get that tuck under through the tailbone. We're going to squeeze the glute. Immediately I can feel the stretch there. There's plenty of time to go deeper into it in a minute, okay? Once the shock of those muscles stretching and you start to breathe and relax a little bit, they will just shut down that little bit more. And when you feel comfortable too, then just rock into it that a little bit more. If you want to lean onto the thigh, do so. Just find a position which gets a good stretch, okay? It's be fairly uncomfortable, because if you are tight there, it's going to be pretty uncomfortable. Just remember to keep tucked under through this side, pushing the hip forward and squeezing that bum muscle as we come in. If you want to, and you can go down to your hands or just go a little bit lower because you feel like you need to get a better stretch, then do it. Think about that breathing. 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out. Okay, and slowly bring yourself out of that one. Okay, so once you spend a bit of time and you're consistent with these stretches, it's not just going to happen overnight. Okay, you're not going to do one session and then immediately be a little bit more flexible through your hip flexors. Okay, I'll be a bit more flexible now for maybe another 30 minutes to an hour perhaps, but then I will just morph back into that if it's not something I'm practicing consistently. Okay, so yes, fantastic to do a little bit more dynamically before you train, but you want to be consistently trying to do these, you know, if you're really struggling every other day, etc., just to allow that ability to open up the hips and allow those glutes to function that a little bit more. Okay, now if you are particularly tight and you are particularly sore through your back, then there's certain ways we can do just to release those muscles off a little bit. And the key thing is that mobility is what you want to be doing when you are in pain. Okay, gentle mobility to help, you know, ease those muscles off. Okay, so you want to be pushing a little bit of blood flow to them. You want to be getting them going through the stretch shortening cycle. Okay, because if they are slightly spasming up and locking up, that's what's going to cause you more issues and just make you more stiff. Okay, so if you are having problems through those lower back muscles, then a good one to do is we're going to put our feet together, our ankles together, our knees together. Okay, arms out to the side, and we're just going to rock from side to side. So just going to pull our knees over to one side. Now the key thing here is that you keep your ankles, your knees together. Okay, I don't want one falling back. You can see here, so I'll do it the other way. You can see here that this knee has dropped down lower, it's come away from the other side. Okay, that means we're no longer moving from the lumbar where we want to be. Okay, moving from the hips a little bit more. Okay, so I'm just going to roll over. As soon as I feel anything start to go, that's probably enough. I'm going to bring it back the other way. Really just allow the lumbar spine to be this part of the spine which is just rotating and easing off at the moment. Shouldn't be a massive amount of rotation. Nice and gently. Okay, so it's just allowing those muscles in the side of our back just to lengthen out a little bit and then shorten a little bit as the other side lengthens out, and it will just allow some blood flow into it. So never just sit still if you're in pain. Every now and then just try and keep as mobile as we possibly can. Okay, and rest there. Now, often if you watch any of my other videos, you'll see that I've been doing some child's pose during the mobility sessions, and I've had a bit of feedback that some people just can't get into a child's pose kneeling position because they've got knee issues. Okay, now an easy way around that is to pull your knees in towards your chest, and I want you to just grab your knees and just squeeze. And so what I'm trying to do is pull myself into a ball. Okay, now this can have the similar sort of effect. Okay, I'm just basically trying to stretch and ease off those lumbar spine muscles. Okay, if I just gently rock back and forth, okay, I might feel that just stretching through my lower back. Okay, if you don't want to rock, you can just hold it, just pull in as much as you can, pull that tailbone right towards your chest underneath here, and just try and breathe as much as you can. Just rock side to side a little bit. And again, if it's really acute pain rather than a stretch, then please just leave this one alone. Good. Carefully release off and just relax your legs down there. Okay. Lastly, tight hamstrings are often a cause of pulling that pelvis into a dodgy position. Okay. But people don't often sort of play into the fact why those hamstrings are so tight. And the hamstrings can be so tight as a result of the glutes being extremely tight, okay, or lack of function through the glutes. So what we're going to do is just going to do one stretch through the glutes, okay, and we're going to do the most user-friendly one, okay? So I'm not going to get you to go into a pigeon pose, I'm just going to get you to come into a stretch where you're bringing one leg over, okay, and we're reaching across, and we're going to try and pull our leg this way into us, hug it into us, lift our chest nice and tall. Now I've got a good stretch going on through the glute complex here, okay? If you can't get anything here and you have the ability to go into a pigeon pose, then go into that and find that stretch, okay? Sometimes it's just a matter of just knowing the stretches that you can do, that you can feel the best stretch out of, okay? And everybody's different from that point of view. Good. And just to breathe and relax, try not to fight the stretches a great deal. Okay, good. And change sides. Bring it right the way up as much as you can. Reach right over and grab and pull towards. Okay, and relax it out. Good. Okay, so there's just some drills to help, mobility drills to help with your thoracic spine and to help with a little bit around your hips, particularly hip extension and releasing off those muscles around the front of your hips. Like I say, guys, I'm not diagnosing anything. There could be a number of reasons as to why you're getting back pain, all right? But I'm just trying to offer a few bits of advice and movements that you could possibly try and do to help ease that off. Like I say, if it doesn't, you get more acute pain, it's probably just better to go and see an osteopath, chiropractor, or your GP. Okay? See you soon.